entire training is to understand React completely as such. Hopefully you can hear me. Let me know in case you are not able to hear me. So the agenda for the day or for the entire session as such is to learn React. Not only React, along with React, we're also going to learn about Redux and React, Redux, and all the integration mechanisms of plugins with respect to React. So all these three things we are going to cover as such in this entire sessions which we have planned off as such. We will also cover in depth few basics which are required for understanding React completely. So it goes something like this. We will start with React. So we will start with React, and in React we will see how to get started with it, how to install the necessary plugins, what is the working mechanism, and so on. And once we get started, we will see components. Again, after components, we will see state lifecycle. There is some concept of stores. So we will see how stores are used, how they can be used with inheritance, and so on. So once we are done with, and then we will also see how inheritance is possible with respect to components and so on. And once we are done with that, we will then start with integration with Redux. So before that, we will understand Redux completely and then go for Redux integration with React, because Redux can be used with other frameworks too. So we will understand the basic and then go for Redux, React Redux, and then take it forward from there. And all this we will be covering a lot of examples, all practicals, with practicals. So what we are going to cover today, so this is the entire course as I told you, correct? So what we are going to do today as such, so the agenda for today is to learn all the prerequisites which are required to understand React totally. So we will start with the prerequisites. Some of the prerequisites might be familiar to you if you are coming from JavaScript world, but yet many of the things will be new, even if you know JavaScript quite well, because we are going to cover some part of ECMAScript, which is the what we can say enhancement done to the original JavaScript as such, with new additions and features which has been made. So overall, we will be covering that today, and if time permits, then we will get started with React. So that's the agenda for the day. Okay, so to get started, we have this prerequisites. As I told you, we will start with prerequisites and then go towards finding out more details pertaining to each of the React elements as such. So to get started with, we start with ECMAScript. Now JavaScript has been with us for a lot of time, and earlier the JavaScript was made as a client-side validation solution, and eventually rising from a plain-side validation solution, JavaScript was capable of dealing with DOM objects. As we know, browser is made up of DOM, correct? So those people who don't know, we have browsers. Browsers are the programs which shows HTML, which is our client-side presentation as such. To do anything dynamic within HTML, we require the support of JavaScript, and using JavaScript, we can perform some operations on DOM. Due to this ability of JavaScript to operate on DOM, we have the next generation apps generated dynamically, which we generally used to call as GHTML, where we gave the HTML the capability of modifying DOMs with the help of JavaScript. So some of them took it more forward and made the entire view layer by using JavaScript itself. That's where all JavaScript UI tools, like for example ReactJS, and then to some extent Angular and React comes into picture. Now what distinguishes React from remaining all JavaScript engine is, or remaining all JavaScript UI solution is, the way React renders itself on the DOM. So what React does is, instead of maintaining or operating directly on DOM, it maintains one more layer which is known as virtual DOM. And this virtual DOM further talks to the actual DOM. So it maintains the two layers. The first one is known as virtual and second one is the actual DOM. And since it does this, it is able to do much operations faster. So how it does is what we will see when we go into the totality of React. As of now, we are trying to understand some of the features which will be used explicitly with respect to React. So these features are more or less from JavaScript, and we are trying to understand this in order to understand React more better. So these are the prerequisites which we are going to cover. Okay. So to get started with, let's take the example of var.eg.js. So let's open. This is a JavaScript file. So let's try opening this and see what it has to offer to us. So I open this var.ed.js in a plain Notepad++. So I close all but this. Okay. So now this is an example of variables. We all know that in JavaScript we can define variable with the help of var, followed by the name of the variable. The name of the variable here is John. And we do console.log, name before is name. So we just print the name. Now if name, so this checks whether name is undefined or null or blank, which is not the case because we already have John within name, in which case it goes inside and creates another variable. This is what we think. It creates another variable with name itself, and it stores Jack within it. And this Jack is used within this block. So as we know, we respect scope. That's what we call, correct? Scope within programming language. So we expect this scope. And when we come up out of this scope, and when I print name, we have to print name, and then that name will get printed. So those people who arrived late, we are not started with React. We are starting with the prerequisite for React, and then we will start going towards React as such as soon as we are done with the prerequisites required for React to understand React better. So we are starting with the prerequisite, and once we are done, we will start with React. I will show you how end to end how to get started with React and so on. Okay. So this is what we have. So at present, we just created a variable, and what we expect from this lines of code and what we get can be different. So that's what we have to see. So to run this, I just have a JavaScript engine with name Node, as many people know, correct? So Node can execute JavaScript code. So I'm going to run this by using the Node command. So Node, as you know, Node.js is one library which is available, and that allows us to do various operations with respect to JavaScript. So majorly you can say that by using Node.js, you can develop JavaScript servers. As such, here I did not develop a server, but I'm just using it to execute our JavaScript code. So if I say node var eg.js, so this will execute the JavaScript code. Yes. So as you can see, the output is this. So what we see from the output, we see that the name before was John, which is as expected because that's what we created as such, correct? So the name before was John, which is perfect as expected. Within the block, we created a new variable, which we expected to be a new variable, and that variable has a value Jack, and that's what got printed. But what we did not expect is, even after the scope is over, the original variable has changed its value from John to Jack. So what this means is, when we create a JavaScript variable by using var, it creates at the global scope. And no matter whatever you do, it always tends to creep at the global scope. say, so the solution for this is what is introduced in ECMAScript, and that solution is known as let. Okay. So we revisit the same example, but now with slight changes. Number one, as you can see, var name is John. So this is the global variable. Name before is, as you can see, it will come John only. If name, let name equals Jack. So now we create a new variable with name, and the value of that is Jack. And within console.log, I am printing Jack. And finally, when I try to access the global variable, it will be clear that the global variable will be unaffected in this case. So this is one advantage of using let, and this is what was introduced in ECMAScript. So ECMAScript, as I told you, is the new variation of JavaScript, and that variation allows us to, what you can say, it allows us to give more features which are intuitive and easy to use. So that's what we got here. So if I run this code again, only difference is instead of saying var eg.js, I can go and say let eg.js. So let eg.js. Sorry, it's the spelling got wrong. So it's get eg.js. As you can see, the result is as expected. Name before is John. The name inside the block is Jack. And we also have the final results as John. Agreed? So this is the way this works. So this is the first feature, let, and this variable feature of using let will be used a lot within React. So just wanted to get started with this as such. Okay. So any doubts on this part on let and var? I think it should not be, because it's quite simple. In case you have any doubts, please free to put it within the comment chat. We will try to take all of them in one go or based upon user. So this was the first thing, the first ECMAScript feature which has been provided. The second ECMAScript feature which we have is the definition of constant. So let is used for local scope. It's not used for global scope as such. So no one stops us from using let at both the places, but as such, we should prefer using let whenever we have inner scopes. Okay, so that's the reason for using let as such. So from programming perspective, it will work. But whenever you want variables to be shared, you should define it by using var. And whenever you don't want variables to be shared and to be used within the scope, you should use let. So that's the difference as such. So now we have var p equals true and p equals false. Now console.log, I am printing variable p. As you know that this will print the value of p as true. Sorry, false, because we are changing it. Now what we wanted was, we wanted p to be a constant so that no one can change it no matter whatsoever. Now that was not enforced in the earlier version of JavaScript. So to have that feature in ECMAScript, const has been added. So const is used for declaring constants, and using const, if you try to change the value of const, what you assigned once, it will not allow. So it will throw an exception. So that what is the feature of using Q. So if I run this again, so we can go and say const.js. So as you can see, the first variable p got changed to false, but the second variable q, when I try to assign this, assignment to constant variable gives an error. So this is another feature which has been added and which needs to be used, and which is used quite a lot within React. So this is const. Okay. The next value which we have is concat. So let's see what is this concat to offer. Okay. Now, in the earlier JavaScript, suppose let's say we had three variables, last name, middle name, and first name, and we wanted to concatenate all of them. We could do that with the help of plus operator, which is the join operator, which will join these various strings. So we had to do it manually by writing statements like this, which is quite annoying in nature. So in case you don't want to use this, in ECMAScript, they have provided a feature with name template. So within template, what you can do is you can encode this, or you can put this entire template within a string, as you can see. I put it within a single quote, and within this template, you can use the dollar symbol to make use of the variable. So as you can see, we have last name, middle name, and first name. So now what will happen is, what all variables have been defined, the corresponding values from that variables will come across, will be replaced at runtime whenever this gets executed as such. So when we run this, the value of last name, which is 00 or 00, will be replaced here, and HH will be replaced here, and PP will be replaced here. So this is much advantageous, because many times we do mistakes, especially with respect to concatenation, that can be avoided with the help of template string. So this is another feature which has been added, and this template string is what we should prefer whenever we want to concatenate or do some string operations with respect to various variables. So again, I go back to the code, and we say concat.js. So as you can see, both of them give the output same. So instead of using the primitive way of concatenation with the help of plus, we can use the more matured way with the help of template string. Again, this is ECMA feature which has come up. So this is template string, and going forward, we also have the concept of pure functions. So let's see what is this pure functions as such. But before that, let's go and see what's immutability and the classes concept. So in ECMAScript, the concept of classes have been added. So before ECMAScript, in case we wanted to create object or a class, we could do it, but in JavaScript, to do that, we have to make use of functions and prototype. So as you can see, this is a plain HTML code within which I make use of Babel. We will talk about Babel later on, what it provides and what advantages it gives. But as such, we make use of script type Babel, and within the Babel, we have this function with name vacation. This function vacation consists of two parameters, and we are setting these parameters. And within this function vacation, I want to add some more functions. So we have this function dot prototype. This is what we used to use in the earlier JavaScript. And within this prototype, we used to add this function with name. So this was the way in which we used to earlier create object orientedness in JavaScript. In fact, it's a complete detailed object orientedness, which used to also support inheritance, abstraction, closures, and so on. So that was a complete different topics as such, but this is just to give you a connection that if I want to create a class, we used to do it in this way in the earlier JavaScript. So we used to create a function, and within the function, we used to add further functions with the help of prototype. Now, once we created this both, we could go and create a vacation object by saying new vacation, and within that we have destination and length. So these two arguments are passed, and we could also invoke the print function which we just created and added it to this vacation by saying mau.print. Okay, so once we run this, you'll be able to see that we get the whatever you say. You can say you got the destination as MAUI and the length of days is 7. So this you can see by opening this class.html in any favorite browser, and say Google Chrome or Firefox. So this was the legacy way of creating classes and objects, and naturally this will not be very much intuitive if you try to, if you are from other programming background like Java, C# or even C++, correct? So in ECMAScript, various features have been added to support classes. So we have complete support of class, where we can create classes and make use of that class as such. So to see that example, yes. So this is the ECMAScript way of creating class. Agreed. So before that, yeah, open the, so if I say Control-Shift-J, which is what will open the developer console. This is the earlier code which we saw. Great. So yes, you can see within the console.log, we got Mauritius will take 7 days, correct? So this 7 days has come, as you know, both from the functions which we created as objects, correct? From the vacation object. So this is what we did in the earlier case. Now we want to replicate the same thing. We want to replicate the same behavior, but with the help of classes. So now we have to go and see how to use classes as such. So we have class vacation. Now within the class vacation, we can create a constructor by explicitly saying constructor, destination and length. So now we give the two parameters just as what we gave in the earlier case. We also can create the print function. We don't have to create the prototype as the print function. So we have this print function within which I am using the template engine which we talked about, correct? So in ECMAScript, we can have template engine. So console.log also becomes quite simple by using these variables, and we can create objects. Naturally, I have created this as constant, but you can make use of that new location, and this is the location, and this is the number of days, and then we can say trip.print. So this looks more logical, clean, and easier to use, even if you are from diverse programming background, correct? As compared to the earlier case. That's what ECMAScript provides. And eventually, we will also land up in using classes at many places within React, which is what, for which reason only I am covering this part as such. Okay. So again, we can run this by opening this file within our browser. So I will do that. So today will be more or less prerequisites. Once we are done with all the prerequisites, I think we will be in a very good position to start with React as such, and then take the React further. Else what happens is, many times within the session, people get doubts on why something is happening like this, and so on. Agreed? We will come to TypeScript. I will take care of TypeScript, and private and public variables we will take care of. Just give us 5 minutes. We will cover some more topics and then take these questions. Okay, any doubts till this? Hopefully. So some questions have been asked. We will cover that as we go ahead, because some of them will become implicit. Okay. Now, as I told you, one of the advantage of the new version of ECMAScript is the ability to give us object orientedness to its fullest. So as I told you, JavaScript also used to provide object orientedness, but that was quite different as compared to what we can do with respect to classes directly. Okay. So to see that, we are creating here a class vacation, same as what we created. And within the constructor, we had the destination and length, and the print function same. Now we have this exportation class which extends vacation. So now extends is by using the keyword extends, which was not earlier present as such. So again, we have destination, length, and gear. And to call the base class constructor, we again make use of super. So all these features look nearly same as what was present in most other programming languages or object-oriented programming languages. So super will call the base class constructor, and it will also set this gear. Now when I do print, I do super.print, so naturally this will get printed, and along with that I am also printing what is specific in this particular gear. So if you try to create an object of expectation, we will have these three things. One, destination, as expectation constructor consists of three things, correct? We have destination, we have length, we have gear. So all of these three things get set up and put within this. And as you can see, the gear is a type of array, JavaScript array. So based upon what we pass, corresponding results will come up in the output. And again, we can verify this output by just opening it with Chrome. Okay, so as you can see, both the strings have come up as expected. Okay, so this is how we can support inheritance, and you will agree with me, this inheritance look quite good as compared to the earlier one. So moving forward, again, yeah, the code is this. This is the class vacation, and this is the class expectation. And this is where we call this. Okay, fine with the code. So let's move ahead as such. Okay, so we saw classes. Now next thing what we have to see, okay, the string template, how does it works in the class expectation, correct? So as I told you, the template, anything which we put within double quotes or single quotes becomes template, correct? So within this template, what I am saying, bring your this dot gear, and now gear is actually this array which we are passing, correct? And within array we have this join function. So what will join function do? Sunglasses and your pair flags and your camera. It will make a string like that. And this entire thing will be replaced with the corresponding string which is formed by this join. Okay. That also explains that within template you can use functions which naturally can perform some string related operations and give results in the form of string. Agreed? So this is the way this code works. And this string template works. And that also shows the advantage of using string template directly, correct? Yes, correct. So if you see the output, sorry, this is what we got. Bring your sunglasses and your prayer flags and your camera. So this is the output, and this is what we pass within the code, correct? Sunglasses, prayer flags, and camera. So each and every element will be added within the join. Join is an inbuilt operator of arrays. From every place, correct? Because join will join the string separated by this common thing which we pass as such. So what I appended and your. So every time before this, it will make and bring your sunglasses and your prayer flags and your camera. Yes, yes. Agreed. You can go and see about this function join within the help library. You can come to know what it does as such. Okay. So taking it forward, going to a couple more important concepts which comes with respect to React is immutability and pure functions. This plays a very important role in the complete integration of React, and many people make mistakes with that, which is what causes a lot of problems. So in order to avoid that, we are covering that part right away. So immutability. So immutability means, what it means is what we have to see a lot. So here, as you know, I talked about let, correct? Color lawn, and within color lawn we have title, color, and rating, these three fields. This is a JavaScript object. I also have a function rate color, and rate color takes color and rating. So what this is doing, color dot rating equals rating. So I am changing the rating of this color to the new rating which I am passing. Return color, and I am returning the color back. Now question for the audience is this function pure? That's a different thing, but is this object immutable? Is this color lawn object which we are using within this program mutable or immutable? So very clearly this is mutable in nature, because when I pass color lawn to this rate color function, it is surely going to change the rating from the original value to the new value which I am passing, correct? The original value was 0, and rate color is going to change this value from 0 to 5. Agreed? So let's try running this and see whether it gives that output. So immutability, again open with Google Chrome. Yes, you see the value got changed from 0 to 5. So do you agree that this function is not this object is not immutable? It's mutable in nature. Okay, code is quite simple. As you can see, we have an object color lawn, and within color lawn we have title, color, and rating. These three properties of this particular object. Now we have created one more function, rate color, and rate color consists of two things. One is color and one is rating. And what we are doing is color dot rating equals rating. So what all rating I pass, that is going to be set within this color object. And finally I am returning the color object back again. So now what we are doing within console.log, I say rate color, and within that I am passing this object color lawn, and I am passing the value of rating as 5. So when I call this function, you will agree with me, this is going to mutate or change the value of rating from 0 to what all value I am passing. So what is the value I am passing? 5. So naturally the color rating has changed from 0 to 5. And the same thing is returned back. So that will be returned back, and within that object we know we have rating. So I am printing the rating. And if I go and print the rating from color lawn, again it will turn out to be 5, because the original object is now mutated or changed. Hopefully that makes it clear. That's why in the output within console.log we got the values as 5 and 5. Okay, is it clear, more clear now, or still any doubts? Okay, I take it as, what does this color lawn contain? The color lawn contains three things: title, color, and rating. Do you agree with me? It contains three properties. So what is the value I am passing? I am passing color lawn. So naturally color lawn contains rating. So this is the rating property of the object which we changed. This is the object and this is the property. We are trying to change the property of the object to the new value. Okay, so that's what we did. So the original object which had rating 0 has been changed to a rating value 5, which is what we passed. That's what we are doing within this function. See, the color dot retain is the object. So in JavaScript, you can pass an object and we can directly access the properties of object by just using dot. So color dot rating equals rating. So we know that the object which I am going to pass is that of color lawn, and that is going to contain this property. In case you are passing some other object, this will cause undefined error. Okay, so color dot rating equals rating means whatever value you have passed, that value we are changing as such. So that's what we did within this code. So this code explains to you that this code is not a safe code because it is changing the property of original object, which is against the rules of React. One of the rules of React is your function should be pure functions as such. So what is pure functions and how we can use is what we have to see. Am I audible? Is any problem with anyone? Is the voice audible? I think it's audible, correct? Yes, okay. Great. Okay, thank you. So moving forward to the next immutability example to understand it more better. Same thing. So let color lawn. This color lawn contains again 3 properties: title, color, and rating. Now again, so the use of concept of mutability within React is React contains something known as store, and how the store gets affected with the help of functions which we make is what we have to learn within React. So immutability is important because many times there are objects whose property we should not change directly because internally they consist of many event handlers which will work automatically when that object gets changed. So that's what we are trying to make understand how immutability works with JavaScript and how can we use that with respect to React. Okay, so how it will be used with React will come later on, but at present we are just showing how can we make use of how can we achieve immutability feature within ECMAScript. So that's what is the major point. So again, here we have this color lawn with these 3 properties, and we have rate color, and you will agree with me the rate color again takes color and rating. Now this function is better as compared to the earlier function because it's making use of the new ECMAScript feature which is object.assign. So what will object.assign do? As you can see, the first argument is a blank bracket, 2 curly brackets. 2 curly brackets indicates that it is object. Second one, color. So what this object.assign will do, it will take all the properties from the first object which I have passed, color, and it will make a new copy of this object. And within that new copy of this object, it will change the rating property to the value of rating which I am passing. So this is equivalent to saying create a new object of color. Color lawn is an object. So anything which contains bracket like this, correct? That is a JavaScript object. To have an array, we should have the square brackets. Okay, this is an object. This is a JavaScript object. So JavaScript object. So when I say object.assign, it will create a copy of this color and do modifications on that copy. So now this makes, so this function is a good function, as we can say, or a pure function, because it is not modifying the original property. So when I say rate color, color lawn, comma 5. So now what is the object I am passing instead of color? It's color lawn. What does color lawn internally contain? It contains 3 properties: title, color, and rating. So what is the original value of rating? It's 0. Now, when I am calling rate color, what is the rating value which I am passing? It's 5. So will it modify the original color lawn to 5? The answer to that is no. Why no? Because here we are making a copy of the original color lawn and we are modifying on that copy. So the result which comes up is the modified or the new generated object whose rating has been changed from 0 to 5, and the original rating still continues to be 0 on color lawn. So this function generates a new object instead of modifying the original object. So we can say that color lawn became immutable to some extent due to this method and due to the object.assign feature. Okay, so if I try to run this, you see the value which is returned back from the object, the new generated object is 5, but the original object still contains written as 0. So the state of the original object has not changed, or the value of the property has not changed. Agreed? So this is what we can write functions which can give immutable nature. This is one way. Similarly, there are many other ways. So let's see other ways also. Yes, it's like, yes, I know this syntax is completely new for many people because this is ECMAScript new. So what does object.assign do? It takes three things in fact. First thing is the object to copy. I mean, this is the object from where we are copying. The second argument is the object from where we are copying. The first one is the blank object. So we are going to copy everything from this to this blank object. And the third thing is if you want to override any property. So as we see that the color lawn contains three properties, correct? Title, color, and rating. So when we say object.assign, it will copy everything from color to this new blank object which we created. And from that, the rating will be modified from 0 to the rating value which we are passing. So in the function, what I am passing 5. So the rating instead of 0 will be copied as 5 in object.assign. So this object.assign will create a new object which will contain all the properties of color lawn, but with only difference that rating instead of being 0 will be 5. It's equivalent to making a copy or cloning an original object and changing the value of property. Is that clear now? Object.assign. So this is the object to copy from. Yes. The new object is returned back, correct? We are using return statement. So naturally, when we call this, when I call the rate color function, what I am getting back? I am getting back this new generated object. And the property of that new generated object is dot rating. So that's why we are accessing. We didn't store this. We could have stored this by creating a var, something like this, var new obj. We could have done like this and saying rate color lawn comma 5, and then we could have gone and told new object dot rating. So what we did is in these two steps, we did in a single step in the earlier one. Agreed? So now what will be the value of new object dot rating? It will be 5. What is the value of original object? It still continues to be 0. Agreed? So this is the way it works. Hopefully that makes it clear. So yeah, I will talk about Babel. I have not talked about Babel till now. I will also show you how it supports various features as we go over. Okay. So this is what we are doing. So this is the second immutability example. We still have many more features which are provided by ECMAScript. Now you can clearly understand why I'm taking this part instead of starting directly with React. because half of the people don't get React basically because they don't know ECMAScript properly. So that's the major reason why I'm taking this part, and then we will go towards actual React, so that when we go there, we don't make the common mistakes which should happen after knowing the ECMAScript in detail, correct? So that's the reason for this. So going forward, yeah, the video is recorded, so you can see the video again. Yeah, so what we did here was we made use of object.assign feature to actually create a copy of an object and change the properties of the object. So object.assign creates a copy of the object which we pass, creates a new object and updates the property. That's what we did. So we are studying immutability and how to achieve immutability. That's what we are studying as such. Okay, so this is what we covered. Agreed? So remaining you can record and get back to me if you don't understand from the recording. Okay. So yes, next is pure functions. So next is immutability. Let's try to finish immutability completely and then also go towards pure functions, because that's also an important concept. Okay. The same immutability what we achieved earlier by using object.assign, we are trying to achieve with a new operator which came in ECMAScript, which is triple dot, and which is also known as spread operator. So triple dot is also known as spread operator, and we can make use of the spread operator to make a copy automatically. So we don't have to make use of object.assign. We don't have to write even that code. We can directly say make a copy of the object directly with the help of 3 stars or 3 dots, sorry. So when we put 3 dot color, this is equivalent to saying make a copy of color. And you will see the spread operator a lot within React. Okay. So again, the example remains same. Hopefully now everyone understood the example, correct? We are trying to study immutability and how to achieve immutable behavior from functions. So if you see here, this is color lawn. Again, title, color, and rating. Rate color is font. Now this is known as arrow function. So again, within what we can say, within ECMAScript, a concept of arrow functions have been created, where you can create functions right away without having to define function. So earlier, if you see, we used to define the function like this, correct? So if your function is going to be quite small, you can prefer using arrow functions. So the arrow function syntax goes like this: first you specify the parameters, followed by the arrow, followed by 2 brackets, within which we can write any code which we want. So here I am writing just one code, that is create a copy of color object and modify the rating to this. So what we did here earlier by using object.assign, the same thing this code does. And since arrow function here in this example consists of only a single line of code, you don't even have to write return statement. So even return statement is not required, it implicitly returns the object as such. Okay, so many things we learned. Arrow function consists of parameters first. Here we are having 2 parameters. If you have a single statement, we don't have to write even return statement, because single statement is automatically returned within arrow. The nature is like that. And triple dot is the spread operator which creates a copy of existing object. So it does the same thing like object.assign. Agreed? So naturally, we tend to use more of spread operator because the code gets reduced further, correct? So the less code, the more better. So that's why we tend to use a lot of spread operator within React, triple dots. And again, the example is more or less clear by now because we took 2 examples correspondingly, where we had this color lawn. Just we keep on putting comma, comma and appending. So this is variable arguments. You can keep on putting how much you want. So like rating, let's say you also have title, put title after that. Same way after put, keep on putting what all values you want after that. That will automatically get changed in the original object. Agreed? So it's not that you can only use it with single param. You can put multiple params. It's separated by comma. So all that values will be modified. Agreed? So is this example clear? Again, we can run this example. Yes, yes, that goes without fee. It has to match. Yes. Okay, so if I run this example, again Control Shift J. As you can see, the original value still remains 0, which means the original object is unaffected, and this one generated a new copy of the object, which is evident by the output file, which is the modified rating. Agreed? So this is also done. One more immutability which we learned. So now before going further, no, there is no specific reason as such. If you don't want someone to change this red color object in any of the functions they are using, or you don't want anyone to reassign this, you can create this as constant. If you don't want anyone to modify this object or change the reference of this object, you can define it as constant. Generally, objects which are shared are created as constants. That's the best practice as compared to var, correct? Because var, I can say var variable 1, I can say it equals to 5, and then I can say var 1 equals 10. This will work because variable allows us to point to any object or change the references of object, but const will not do. So if you want some reference object which no one wants to change, you can define as const. Yes. Okay, so going forward, we will talk more about arrow functions, don't worry, for those people who are new. Okay, so let's see this example. Can everyone have a look at this part from here to here? So here we are learning the concept of pure functions. So what are pure functions? That's what we are learning. So what we see here again a JavaScript object. Hopefully everyone now understands that anything within square brackets, the curly brackets is object, correct? So we have object with as name and two properties, can read and can write. Now I have created one function with name self-educate, where I am changing the value of this particular object can read to true and can write to true. We can call self-educate and we can print the value of Frederick. Now question to this, so this function self-educate, we can say is not a pure function. Now question comes, what is pure function? Pure function or function which should have three conditions. Number one, we should have two conditions basically. One is it should take arguments. Number two, it should have a return, and the return should return a copy of the original object rather than mutating the original object. So there are three conditions for pure. One, it should contain parameters. Number two, it should create a new copy of the object. And number three, that it should not mutate the original object as such. So if all these three conditions are satisfied, we can say that function is a pure function. Pure function plays a very important role in React Redux integration. So that's why we are talking so much about it. So here this self-educate function is not pure because it is not satisfying any of these conditions. As you can see, it's impure function because no arguments, it's mutating the original object and it's also not returning anything. So naturally, self-educate is not a pure function. Hopefully everyone got that. Agreed? So we can execute this. This is nothing but simply printing the values. So we can say open the Google Chrome. Control Shift J. Agreed? You see, this is the object. Can read is again true. Can write is also again true. So the original object has been changed, which is not good, correct? So this is not a pure function as such. So going forward, next example. Okay, so this one, same example but in different way. So can someone explain whether this is, can everyone have a look and determine whether this is pure or non-pure? Can we assign name to the copied object by array function? I didn't get that, sorry. I did not get the question. So we'll come back to that question in case. Okay, so what we are doing here, so as you can see, again the object is same. The self-educate function has been now modified to an arrow function. So this arrow function now takes one argument person, and within the person we are changing the can read to true and can write to true, and we are returning person. So if you have just one value within the, only one parameter within the arrow, you don't have to even use bracket. Okay, that's why I did not put in the bracket. You can put bracket, no one stops you, but it's not necessary. So person can read, can write true, and we are returning the person. So do you think this satisfies all the conditions of pure function? Number one, does it contain parameter? Yes, person is the parameter. Number two, does it return some result? Yes, it returns some result. Number three, are we muted in the original object? The answer to that is yes. So since it's muted in the original object, that's why you cannot call this function as pure function. Agreed? This cannot be pure because it is modifying still the original object which you passed as parameter. Had you not passed this as parameter or add this, made a copy of the object and then returned that, then you would have not, then we would have called this function as pure function. Okay. Now, number two, we need not give any name to this object because we are returning this object. It is the responsibility of the person who takes that object to name it, correct? Just like function calls in any programming language, whenever you make a function call, okay, again, I think this question has become common, how the object is having that. Yes, so person is a object which I am passing, and for this function, when I am calling self-educate, what is the object I am passing? I am passing Frederick. So Frederick contains can read and can write. That's why I am able to say person dot can read, person dot can write. So in JavaScript, the object properties can be used directly by, can be accessed directly by using dot. And in case this property is not present, you will get undefined. Yes. Agreed. Hopefully everyone got this. Any doubts on this? So again, you will agree with me, this is not a pure function because it's still modifying the original object. Even though both the conditions have been satisfied, but the third condition that the object should not be mutated is not satisfied. That's why this is not a pure function. Yes? Great. These are all famous interview questions too. So many people, by just reading some bit of React, go for interviews and they face challenge in the interviews because the base part is not clear. So that's why again I'm repeating, I'm emphasizing on this base part, because once we start with React, then we will not have time to revisit this again. So this is very important from the perspective of understanding. Okay. So going forward. Okay. The third, the same example return. So can we say this is can we have a look ourselves first before I explain? Yes, that's correct. Here we are copying Frederick. So if you see this function, this is again a function. So how this is a function? Because this is arrow function. So arrow function is a new feature within ECMAScript. So this function takes person as an argument, and as we know, this triple dot stands for the triple dot stands for the spread operator, and the spread operator is copying this object person, and can read and can write property has been changed, along with name property is also changed. So this answers your question of multiple parameters. And I don't understand your question. So what you mean is, what is the name of the copied object? We don't have a name. The copied object is just a plain JavaScript object. What all value? So whenever you call this function, you will get this object as return, and that object will then can be assigned to a variable, or you can assign a variable right away here, saying where copied object and return copied object. So there is no such hard rule for the name of this object. Since this is a single return statement within arrow function, you need not give any name to it. So what all will be returned, that can be assigned to a variable after the value is returned. Hopefully that answers your question of what is the name of copied object, correct? Agreed? So again, if I see this, now is this function pure? So in JavaScript, you can create variables as functions. If you remember our validation example, correct? Validation example was a function validation, and we created object of that validation by saying new, correct? Same way, we can create variables here which can hold functions. So JavaScript is loosely typed. So the same variable can point to a primitive, the same variable can point to a function. So here we are creating function dynamically, and the name of that function is self-educate. Okay. So that's how JavaScript works. You can create a function which can be accessed as a variable. So here self-educate, and within bracket I am passing Frederick. So I think everyone will agree this function is a pure function. We are concluding that self-educate is not muted in the original object because we have used the spread operator. The 3 dots stands for spread operator, and what does spread operator say? It says make a copy of person and change these properties on the copied object. So are we changing anywhere person dot can read or person dot can write or person dot name? No. So that's why we can conclude that self-educate function is not muted in the original object. Did we write anywhere here person dot can read equals to? No. That's why this is not muted. Agreed? So when I call self-educate back again, a new copy of object created, and a new copy contains OO, can read as true and can write as true, and the original object continues to remain as it is. Yes, this is returning person object. How? This is the arrow function. In arrow function, if you just write one statement, that is equivalent to return. You don't have to explicitly write return like this. So if there are more than one statements, you will have to write return. In arrow function, if there is no only one statement, it's implicitly returned. That's the way arrow functions are made. Agree? So go and run this example so that I can show you the. Yes, I will share this code. I know this code is very important, and I will request everyone to go through this code religiously before we start our React code. So I know many people have come expert in that. I will directly start with React, which I would have easily done today without any issues. But the only problem with directly starting is without understanding this concept, you will never be able to understand React to the actual depth. That's why I'm taking this part. Yes. Log.Frederick will log unchanged values. Log.Frederick. So console.log is a print statement. So this is not pure function as such, correct? It will just, it can modify the state if you want, but this is not a pure function as such. This is inbuilt function from the browser perspective. That's why we don't care whether it's pure or not. Any function which we write and in which we don't want to change the state should be pure as such. Okay. So we again go and run this example. This is pure functions as such. Sorry, which example it was? This one, correct? So open with Google Chrome. Okay, so this is the modified object. As you can see, the new object which is returned contains can read and can write as true and name as OO. And the original object still continues its own state with false, false, and name as Frederick Douglass. So do you agree with me that this function is pure in nature because it's not modifying the original object, correct? Everyone clear with this? Pure? Okay, great. So moving forward, okay, so now we are going towards a little bit more advanced topics on mutability and immutability. Yes, I will do that. I will write all the concepts what we learned before we stop the session. Yes, I will do that right away. Don't worry. And all this code is also there in Dropbox. The link will be shared with you after this session. So what we have here? Yes, the session is recorded. The recordings will be available in our Cashpond website, correct? The standard place where we access all our recorded sessions. So what we see here? We see here that I created a list. Everyone knows let for scope, correct? Variable declaration. Let list, and this list contains 3 objects. How I came to know it contains 3 objects? Are you able to see this bracket? So anything with curly brackets, as I told you, is object, correct? So here we have 3 objects. Here we have 3 objects, and 3 objects have the same property title. One is red, lawn, and party pink, some colors, correct? Now I write a function. The name of the function is add color, correct? So I'm reading, as I told you in JavaScript, you can have variables pointing to a function. This function contains title and colors. What I am doing, colors dot push. Everyone of you know push is a function within array, correct? JavaScript contains push function which adds an element. So it adds this element, new element, which is an object with title. And finally we return colors. So my question to you people is this function pure? And at the end we are adding the color with title and the original list which we passed. And I am printing the length which we get as a return, and we are also printing list.length. Yes, the answer is correct from Brigendra. No, it's not a pure function because we are making use of push. Push function within the array actually mutates the array itself. So it adds within the same array. It doesn't create a copy of the original array. Hence, this function is not pure, even though the 2 conditions of pure, that is, it should return a result and it should contain parameters, is satisfied. But the third condition, that it should not mutate the original state, is not satisfied, and hence this is not a pure function. That's perfectly correct. Hopefully everyone is now clear with pure functions. So let's try to see how can we so now we are remodifying the original code. So let's see how can we make the same example into a pure function. So we can make that as pure function with the help of array.concatenate method. So this concat method is again part of array. The only difference is concat method will create a copy of the original array and will do mutations in that array or will do changes in that array. So the original array will be unaffected in this case. Hence, this is a pure function, and I created this as arrow function. As you can see, it contains 2 parameters, and since it doesn't contain more than one statement, this will be returned back. So concatenate automatically returns the object. Mutate means change the original object. It doesn't mean mutate doesn't mean create a copy. Mutate means change. So whenever you want to say I am going to change a value, the change itself becomes mutate. Agreed? Mutate means change. Agreed? So array.concatenate title. So this will add this title and return this. They return the copy of this array. So when I say add color, this will generate, yes, in this size, this statement will return the length as 4, and the original list in this case will still have length as 3. Agreed? So this is the way we can generate. Yes, as you can see, the output is as expected. The modified length is 4, and the original still contains 3. Correct? So this shows that using the concatenate method is advantageous because it doesn't mutate the original object. So this is one more thing which we learned. Yeah, this one, can we go through this? You know what is the meaning of triple dot? Can anyone say what does triple dot mean? Or write in the comment chat what is triple dot stand for? Yes, it stands for spread operator. That's perfectly correct, and it creates a copy. That's perfectly correct. So spread operator creates a copy. So what we do here is list. We have 3 lists, and I have add color, which is a variable and which is created as a arrow function. And within this arrow function, we have title and list, 2 parameters. And using that, I am creating a new copy of list, and that list contains a copy of original list, as well as it contains the new title added. So this new title is added as a template string. You can also add it as normal string. So that's how it works. So now here, if you say add color, glam green comma list, so it will go and create a copy of this list and will add this new value. And we can see this in JSON format or normal format or print the length to see how it looks. So let's run this and see the output. As you can see, the array size is 4, correct, as expected. The original length still continues to be 3. So hopefully that shows how to write immutable functions or pure function in other simple words. We have a few more properties to cover as such. Okay, so can anyone explain what this looks like? So here I am creating my function. The name of the function is function EG. Yes, I agree. The question, yeah, sorry, I will repeat the question whenever now question is raised so that the answer makes more sense. So function EG, name equals Vishwa and subject equals React. Agreed? Yes, this is default parameter. So we have default parameter like if the value is not passed, then the value which is passed as default will be used. So, and again, as you know, we are using template string, correct? So name, teachers, subject. So when I say function EG, since I am passing no arguments, we'll use the default arguments, and Vishwa teachers React will come. Yes, optional parameters, that's correct. And when I pass Shiv and C#, it will say Shiv teaches C#. So naturally, this will give the output, and this explains optional parameters. If that's correct. So we can run this by saying fun1.js. So as you can see, it gave the output as expected, correct? When I did not pass, it used the default one, and when I passed, the corresponding values which I passed were used. So moving towards next. Okay. So we have default trainer as an object. Everyone agrees? This is an object because it consists of curly brackets. And within that, it contains name as a property, and name is further nested object. So this is a nested object. And within that nested object name, we contain first as Vishwa. And the subject, as you can see, is an array. It contains React and Python. So we have a function train. P is default trainer. So what this means, we studied optional parameters, but it is also possible to have optional parameters as an object. That's what we want to show. So if the user is not passing anything, then this default trainer object will be used, and we can access the properties. You know, default trainer stands for this. Within this, I want name, and within that, I want first. So I can say p.name.first. And I can also say p.subject. Agreed? So this is the way we can access nested properties and also use default arguments with objects. So again, this is a famous interview question. As you can see, Vishwa teaches React and Python. Both of them came as such. Agreed? So going next. Sorry, I did not get that part. War default trainer. So this naturally has to be defined before, correct? Before to actually use within this method. Agreed? So that's the rule which we have to follow. So function for JS. Okay. Now this introduce. Yes. So this introduces us. This example introduces us to the complete concept of arrow functions. Okay. It shows both arrow function as well as non-arrow function. So if I see here, so war greeting function, it consists of message and name, and I return $message $name. Everyone now knows what's template string, correct? So this message and name will get appended, and it will give us the corresponding output. So this function takes two parameters and returns the result. This is the normal function, normal JavaScript function. Now same can be converted to an arrow function like this. We have message and name, we have this arrow. So I told you before arrow, whatever we contain is the parameters, correct? And we will return. We don't have to even write return statement if there is a single statement. So for single statement, automatically the result is returned back. So from single, hi and friend. So from single, hi and friend will come as the output. So this both functions are equivalent of each other. Only difference is when I use arrow functions, if it's only a single statement, I don't have to write return. So the code gets reduced. Hopefully everyone clear with this. Same way, if I see this top, we have or welcome. It contains only a single parameter name, and it returns result welcome your name. So when I say welcome John, the name is John, and welcome John will come. And when I say welcome Jill will come. If you run this, fun4.js, it's taking quite a lot of time to run, which is quite surprising because it generally runs very fast. Sorry, let's run once again. Which one? This single, what I wrote? Between template? Yes. This is something which I appended as such. So if you don't want, we can just remove this. This is just to show that template can also contain normal strings as well as strings which I have passed as variables. So just to show that I use this. It's not necessary that from single is required. Okay. Yes, as you can see, welcome John, welcome Jill, hi friends. From single, hi friend. Just to show the difference between hi friend and from single, hi friend, I just use this from single as such. Okay. Yes, we will come to multiple statements with an arrow. Don't worry about it. So everyone clear till this arrow function? Yes. Yes, equivalent to concatenate. You can say that. Agreed. So moving forward. Okay, this is another thing. So we have this var hotels, which is naturally a variable, and this is an object. This contains one property as resorts, which is an array. This contains one more property, print, and this print is a function. I am passing delay as a parameter. The value default which I give is 1000, correct? We know now this is a default parameter. Now set timeout is a function. This set timeout will call this function which are passing after this delay. So after this 1000 milliseconds, that is 1 second gets passed, this function will get called. So when I say hello.print, it will call this function after a delay of 1 second. Agreed? So if I try to run this, sorry, it's 5, correct? Yes. Okay. It's an array, correct? So joins, comma. Something wrong. Yes. So this is what we expected, that we should get output after a delay of 1 sec. But you can see it through this error. This error is perfect. Now why this error is perfect? Yes. So why this error is perfect is because whenever you use functions within functions in a nested way, this using this will call the function or will call the context within this set timeout. That's why this resource is not being recognized as the original hotel object. So this was the problem with earlier JavaScript. Whenever we wanted to have a relationship between the outer object and inner object, we have to explicitly bind both of them. Okay, so that binding would have to be done with the help of bind method, and if you don't bind, we will get an error like this. So it was not able to recognize resource as such, and within resource join. Agreed? So that's why, and as you can see, since it's not able to fetch the object, I told you this earlier, if it's by some means not able to fetch the object, it will come undefined. Agreed? That's what we got here as such. So how can we fix this? So let's go and see the next example that should come and help us in fixing this. Okay, as I told you, we have to make use of bind. So this is the old JavaScript way of binding. So within set timeout, everything is same. Within set timeout function, after I write the function, I have to say dot bind this. So when I say dot bind this, I am saying I am going to bind this particular function with this outer object, which is hotel. So now if you run this example, you will see this will work as expected. You see, it worked as expected. So this is the change which we have to do in case we are using old JavaScript. Now this problem will get solved automatically with the help of arrow functions. So if I make use of arrow, as you can see, the set timeout, I replace the function with an arrow function. Now within arrow function, so binding is always at the one level up. If you have more than one level, then binding becomes difficult. Okay, and then we will have to use the reference of super to actually get that. I don't have a ready example, but if you get time next week, I will show you that. Yes. So if you see here, war hotels resort, print function delay, and within set timeout, I am creating an arrow function. If you don't want to pass any parameters within arrow, you can just use plain bracket followed by arrow followed by the console.log and delay. Now I don't have to do bind or do anything as thought what we used to do in old JavaScript. This will automatically work because by default the arrow functions are linked to the scope in which it's created as such. So if I run this example, which is 17.js, you see it gave the same output. So this is one advantage of arrow functions, correct? Scope within nested. Okay. So that finishes nearly most of the parts which I wanted to complete. As such, yes, we have something known as promise, but that's something to do later on as such. So we will come to that later on. So these are the minimum prerequisites which are required to start with React. This is minimum. There may be few more additions as we go, but this is the minimum things which are required. And all these examples is what we are going to cover as a part of this session. As I promised to you, we will do Redux, pure Redux. We will do Redux React. So we will do pure React. We will do React with Redux, and we will also do React with Redux Saga. Okay, so now one basic question is script type text babel where type equals text JavaScript, correct? So as I told you, ECMAScript was released in two different versions, ECMAScript 2015, ECMAScript 2016. So when JavaScript was released by using ECMAScript, not all browsers were ready to actually accept that change, because naturally the change was quite a lot. So now what they wanted was, they wanted an intermediate program which can be used as a fallback. So in case something in ECMAScript, some browser is not supporting ECMAScript, then to compile that ECMAScript code to plain JavaScript. So they wanted someone who can take up that task, so that the new ECMAScript features become utilized more and more. And to do that, Babel has come. So Babel is an intermediate, you can say, a set of library which can take ECMAScript code and based upon the browser compatibility, either use ECMAScript directly as it is or convert it into a format which will be accessible to all cross browsers. So if you see our code, wherever we had used Babel, correct? So here, I think here we use Babel. We have linked to the Babel library. We have linked to this Babel library, and instead of script type JavaScript, we use script type Babel, so that the intermediate conversion happens, and even on browsers where there is no support, this code executes as expected. So that's the difference between text Babel and text JavaScript. And Babel is very important because we don't know still how many people make use of legacy libraries or browsers, correct, as such. So to ensure that we are compatible, we always have to ensure that we use Babel as such. Okay. So again, as a part of reputation, we are going to cover all these examples. We are going to see all these examples, and as you can see, they're all zipped and made available to you. And all these examples are going to cover a lot of React concept as well as some new JavaScript concepts which you don't regularly come across. We will also have integration with React. We will see React Redux. We will also see Redux Saga, which is another integration. So all various type of integration, even the integration with the latest GraphEQ, which is GraphQL, a new type of REST replacement service is done. So all these examples we will be covering along with advanced examples of many live projects which we have. So this is what we are going to do as such within this session. Yes, all these examples will be shared. Yes, we will be covering that also. This SPFX will also be covering. So the basic difference between JavaScript, ECMAScript and TypeScript is not much. So the earlier part of the version or earlier release, the first release was known as JavaScript. They were all released by the European community, the ECMA group. The ECMA group was the European community IT group which was maintaining JavaScript. For a lot of time they wanted enhancements, but they were not able to do that. So as and when they felt that they are ready to do enhancements, they replaced the core JavaScript engine. And that so core JavaScript engine was replaced with ECMAScript, the new script. And ECMAScript 2 versions are very famous. One is 2015, another is 2016. And both this allows us a lot of features as such. Okay, some of which we saw. Yeah, I think they will put a download link or they will share the Dropbox link. Don't worry, we have shared code in the earlier sessions also. So this will be again shared with you, 100%. Don't worry about that. Okay. So just to get started with, as I promised you that we will start with a React example. So just let's get started with React, and we will try to do more examples of React in coming up sessions. So this will be going to be, I think, 3 to 4 sessions as such, where we'll be covering all these topics, each of 2 hours, and then we will take it forward from there. Okay. So to get, yes, we'll just get started with one simple example, because someone had come at the start of the session and asked us how to create a React library or a React project. So we'll just show him so that he will also be happy, or else he will say that in a React session we did completely JavaScript. Just as a joke part. So yes, so before we start, first thing what we have to do is ensure that Node.js is installed. So Node.js is a standard library or standard program using which we can create both server side as well as client side application. So first thing you have to do is ensure that Node.js is installed, and within Node.js, the latest version, we have npx, which is a package library. And using this package library, you can create a React project by just saying create React app and the name of app. So the name of app which I am going to give now is SBSS. So this is the command which we have to execute in command prompt so that a React app gets created. This will ensure that all the latest version gets downloaded and gets created as such. So once you run this command, so if I do cd, it will take quite some time to actually download the library. That's why I'm not firing. But I will just show you what it generates. It will generate something like this, a folder like this. It will generate this folder, and this folder will contain package.json. So package.json contains third-party dependencies. Agreed? If you are going to use third-party libraries, for example, Redux or Saga and so on, then we will have package.json having that dependencies. So what happens is whenever we make a React project or a Node.js project for that reason, we contain a lot of node modules. Now, node modules are like helper libraries. Now, these helper libraries, we don't want to commit it in Bitbucket or GitHub. So what we do is we give package.json, and using package.json, we can run the npm install command. Once we install that, all the dependencies are automatically installed on that client machine. So instead of we having to put this as a part of code in Bitbucket, we can just share the package.json and users can download the libraries themselves. So that's the advantage of package.json. It acts as what we call within Java, we have pom.xml or Maven, central repository, correct? Same way, it acts as a reference of the dependencies used by this project. And within that, we will have source folder. By default, all this code is created automatically whenever we run this command. And within this, we will have app.js, which is the starting point, and index.js, these two files. So just let's go and see these two files. So we import React as we are doing with React, correct? From React dependency and React DOM. These are two concepts. We will talk about these concepts later. As I told you, React makes use of virtual DOM, correct? Makes use of virtual DOM. What is virtual DOM? How it helps and so on, we will talk later on. So we are importing some dependencies, and within our HTML page, we have root tag, and within that root tag, an appending and my app. And this app internally, you can see, makes use of class concepts, as you can see, correct? The inheritance class came into app. It extends component. Component comes from React, and within that, I am creating a div with various message which we have to display on the screen. So this is a very simple code which automatically comes whenever you say React. What you say, this command which I gave you, correct? npx create React will download all the dependencies automatically for React and will install and give all the classes and logo inbuilt. Now we can run this example by just saying npm start. So let me go towards this folder. And we can run this statement npm start. So once we do, it will go through these folders and compile the code and give us in such a way that the app is running. So what we can say, local deployment, correct? Local testing can be done with this command npm. So this, what does this npm command do is it goes towards this package.json, and within that package.json, as you can see, there are very inbuilt scripts, and it will start the app like this. Build is used for making a build, I mean making a deployment unit. Same way we have test and inject as two more options which we have. So as you can see, it will start a local development server in which we can see our app. So this is the development server, and once this gets completely deployed, you'll be able to see the app rendered on the screen. It will take a couple of minutes. Yes, the app is rendered. This is the getting started React app. You can see the logo, you can see the welcome message. All this comes from the div, which we defined. You see app logo and everything. And now you probably might be knowing what does this mean, correct? Doesn't this look similar to template string? Only thing is I'm not using the string, but it looks nearly same as template string, correct? So what this does is it can observe an object, this bracket, within the context of React. Okay, and within index.js, this gets deployed. So this entire app gets deployed as a part of this root element. And that's what we are printing. So we will look more into details of what React is, what is virtual DOM, and how all of this combination works in coming up sessions. But as I requested, please go through the code which will be shared with you, and we can take it forward from there. Thanks everyone. I appreciate everyone for their patience in joining this session and making it enjoyable. Hopefully we will meet again and we can take forward. Yes, assignments you can just repeat the examples. I can give you a couple of assignment questions which you can do as a part of this. So I'll ensure that that's also given to you. Okay. Thanks. I appreciate everyone once again for your patience, and we will do more of React tomorrow. Thanks. Thanks everyone for your patience. Thanks. Yes. Welcome.